What if you found out the plot was she was dead the whole time?
Wonder with us. I'm Bethany,
I am still Connor.
and this is Wonder with Us.
It is still a podcast,
talking about the Twilight Zone.
which is still a show.
Well, it was. It's the original one's no longer on air.
No, but The Twilight Zone is still a show.
I mean, yeah,
As of 2019, I haven't checked in on it recently.
sure.
How are things going, Jordan? Hit us up. Let us know. I haven't watched your show.
Not yet. We'll get there.
Someday, maybe. So, what if? What if you decided you were going to take a one-person drive all the way across the United States, taking a highway that did not go through the roads you thought it went through or through the states you thought it went through, and the entire time you were being followed by somebody who, despite being a hitchhiker and not in a vehicle, always seemed to be 2 steps ahead of you?
Well, first off, I wouldn't do that drive because that's horrible. Too many hours on the road.
Yes, and, woman. Yes, and.
Okay. So given that it's the 50s or the 40s time era in the episode,
I'm not talking about the episode.
I'm just saying.
I'm just saying it's 2020. You've decided you're going from Manhattan to Los Angeles and you got a one trip to do it.
Okay. Well, I mean, GPS is a thing. Really loud music. I'd probably get freaked out, but it'd be fun.
This is thrilling.
Yeah, not one for solo road trips. Not my bag. So, I'm probably not the person to ask that question.
I'm quite fond of them. However, I've never had a hitchhiker manage to be 2 steps ahead of me the entire way across the country, so I don't know.
That would be creepy. I
It
mean,
seems unsettling at best.
you get sleep deprived on super long drives, and
You
paranoia.
do.
Paranoia kicks in, and yeah.
Well, that is certainly the case in this episode, The Hitchhiker, episode 16. We are moving right along through this season, and holy God, is it taking forever and a day.
It really is.
I love this show, and despite that, oh my God.
It feels like we're just kind of slogging through some
We're slogging through some real rough episodes right now.
quicksandy
in the
episodes.
middle of season 1, which is not fantastic. Things do pick up in season 2, and should we talk to the people about season 2?
Oh, go for it. Yeah.
We haven't talked about season 2. We don't know what we're doing. Bam, now
Yeah.
you're up to date.
Yep. We don't have a plan yet, but
no
it'll be different.
plan.
It'll be different. You keep telling me to look forward to season 2 because I haven't seen any of those episodes.
That's what I'm talking about. Are we still going to be doing Twilight Zone in season 2?
I hope so.
Oh, God.
I kind of want to continue.
I mean, you can keep watching it without us putting out an episode every week about it.
Sure.
I don't know. I'm kind of at the point where I'm not entirely sure people are listening.
Yeah.
Like, we've got some people listening, that's for certain. They're not talking to us, but we know they're there.
Right. I'm just kind of creeping.
They're just kind of creeping, and that's okay. That is okay. Although, with that said, we could really use some reviews and ratings on, like, iTunes and things to get us in front of more people who can just kind of creep.
That would help us. It would go a really long way to making us want to continue.
Could we call them our creep crew?
Ooh, I like that.
The illiteracy makes me very happy.
Yeah. Alliteration.
Sure.
Yeah.
I was definitely not talking about my inability to read and write.
So
that may or may not be a thing. This episode aired January 22nd, 1960.
yeah, it was directed by Alvin Ganzer.
Tell me a little bit about him.
He was born August 27th, 1911 in Cold Spring, Minnesota.
Dear God.
He died January 3rd, 2009.
That words are fun.
Yeah, tripped over my own tongue. It's fun.
Run that by me again.
He died January 3rd, 2009.
Okay.
He was 97 and he died in Kauai, Hawaii.
He figured it out.
Yeah.
He did it right.
He did it right.
That's the way to go.
He had over 70 directing credits in his career. He's a pretty private person, though, and I couldn't find any other information on him. But, fun fact, this episode was originally written for radio by a lady named Lucille Fletcher. She's the wife of the well-known music man Bernard Herrmann.
The Music Man himself. I think Music Man is trademarked, so maybe not the Music Man. We should pick a different nickname for him.
Sure, but for most of the Twilight Zone episodes, he's the Music Man.
He is a prevalent part of their sound design. Production crew, we got George T. Clemens on Wow.
I know, we're
George
all over
T.
the
Clemens
place.
as the director of photography once again, alongside Franklin Milton and Jean Valentino and an uncredited Van Allen James on the sound production.
Effects.
Now, we have gotten through the entirety of the crew, and by that I mean the ones we wrote down. Tell me a little bit about our star.
I will try to make that quick. So
it's going to be hard.
Inger Stevens plays the leading lady in this episode.
Nan Taylor.
Yeah. Very unassuming name.
Very unassuming name. Very, what's the word I'm looking for? Pasty?
Boring.
Synonyms. Moving on.
She was born October 18th, 1934 in Stockholm, Sweden, and died April 30th, 1970 in Hollywood at the very young age, comparatively speaking, of 35. It's a pretty tragic story. She suffered from chronic depression. She was abandoned by both of her parents at a very young age, and in 1944 moved to the States. In her teens, she ran away from home because I guess her dad was living here, and she moved in with him and then hated life and moved away. Then moved to New York to pursue modeling and study at the Actors Studio. She started in film through TV commercials and eventually debuted at the age of 22 in the 1957 film Man on Fire, which was opposite Bing Crosby. Thus,
rumor has it, she done had a thing for her.
Indeed, she had a thing for many of her co-stars. That became a thing for her. She had some highs and some lows. She attempted suicide on New Year's Day of 1959, survived that attempt, obviously, and then came back to an Emmy-nominated role in the Dick Powell Theater, The Price of Tomatoes in 1962. After that...
Hell of a title.
Yeah, right. After that, she continued to really just kind of work it. And she appeared in Bonanza, The Twilight Zone, eventually landing a long-term spot in The Farmer's Daughter. It was a lighthearted comedy in 1963 that lasted 3 seasons. She won a Golden Globe Award and an Emmy nomination for her role as Katie Hallstrom in that series. With her success and the upward swing, she started up her affairs again with co-stars, the last one being Burt Reynolds in 1970.
Gross.
Right. Yeah. And a week after she signed up for a role in a crime whodunit called The Most Deadly Game, she was unfortunately found dead in her home of a drug overdose.
Now, if I recall correctly, I read something in there about her husband, her long-standing husband, being... her marriage, rather, being kept secret through a lot of her career because she married a black man.
Oh, yeah. That was the other big thing.
Apparently, for obvious reasons in 1960, this was something that had to be
kept
hidden
under
for her
wraps.
career.
Sure.
And I guess they were estranged at the time of her death, but holy fuck.
Yeah. A lot of ups and downs in that.
Next, we have Adam Williams, who played the sailor who we'll meet in a little bit. He was born November 26th, 1922 in Manhattan, New York. Died December 4th of 2006 in L.A. He did it wrong at the age of 84. He was a lifelong actor and writer with 113 acting credits to his name, known best for North by Northwest in 1959, The Big Heat in 1953, and The Darby Rangers. Sorry, The Darby's Rangers. Is that right?
Mhm.
That's got a bad mouthfeel. In 1958, I've never heard of any of these. I'm sure they're great. Well done, Adam.
I think North by Northwest was actually written for stage. It sounds like a drama thing. But
Again,
anyway.
never heard of any of them. Well done, Adam. Congratulations on living past 75.
And finally, Leonard Strong was cast as the Hitch-Hiker, the ominous guy who reappears continually in this episode.
This dude's face is so creepy.
It really is. They did really well with the casting on this.
And he did a good job with having a creepy face.
I'm sure he worked hard on it.
I've seen pictures of him where he didn't look so creepy. Man, he looks hella creepy in this episode.
He was born August 12th, 1908 in Salt Lake City, Utah. He died January 23rd, 1980 in Glendale at the age of 72. And despite his 67 acting credits, he was best known for his one-liner role in this episode, The Hitch-Hiker, of The Twilight Zone. He went on to other small but consistent villain typecast roles in like The Cult of the Cobra in 1955, reoccurring as the Claw in the series Get Smart 1965.
Congratulations
On having a creepy face that got you villain roles.
See, and that feels mean. Like, I should be saying congratulations on having a fairly active career on 67 credited roles and being best known for a one-liner in The Twilight Zone in 1960.
I mean, at least he was well known for something.
Yeah, I mean, good on him. Like, when I die, well, you'll probably remember my name. Now, IMDb says that a young woman driving across the country becomes frantic when she keeps passing the same man on the side of the road. No matter how fast she drives, the man is always up ahead, hitchhiking for a ride.
See, and I don't know if it was the way you said frantic or just the fact that that's how they described it. It rang out as hysterical.
Well, we don't like that word here
No.
because we're supporters of Sawbones.
And hysteria
Thank
is not a
you,
thing.
Justin and Sydney.
Yep. So we found out what IMDb says. How about a quick break?
We can do a quick break, but we're only 12 minutes into the episode, and it feels kind of shitty. Like, welcome to the episode. Here's 10 minutes of us talking about stuff you don't want to hear about and some ads.
All right. Well, in that case, should we continue?
Let's continue for a little while.
All right.
We'll put a little bit of time into it. So, we got Nan Adams.
Mhm.
What's she doing?
Traveling.
She is, although when we first see her, she got a flat tire.
Yeah.
She's not technically traveling when we first see her.
No,
She is sitting
that's-
on the side of a road.
The opening scene.
Highway 80, as we're told.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Her car breaks down, and the narration says that she's in Pennsylvania.
It sure looks like Pennsylvania.
It's a desert.
You know what they say about Pennsylvania? It's got dirt. I guess.
That was kind of fun because Rod's voice clearly says she's in Pennsylvania, and it's just a desert wasteland.
Well,
Like, oh, that looks like California.
I'm so torn on these because it's hard to do a accurate depiction or even a slightly accurate depiction of somebody traveling through the various landscapes that the United States has
Mm-hmm.
when you're filming the entire episode in Northern California.
Right.
And the entire episode is filmed in Northern and Central California, which, if you haven't been there, folks, it's a desert.
Yeah.
It's a high desert with a lot of people.
From Central, the further south you go, there's
Cacti and sage.
tumbleweeds.
Plenty of tumbleweeds. Like this beautification of the mind that is California in the eyes of most people.
It's a joke. It's a lie.
It's absolutely 100% accurate in like 4-mile stretches of California, usually near the coast
On Highway 101.
on Highway 101. And those are beautiful, but even those are not going to accurately represent Manhattan or Pennsylvania,
Any of the East Coast. Really.
any of the East Coast states, because, oh dear God, what if you need snow?
Yeah.
You're not going to find it.
No.
You're not going to find it. Like once every fort year, is that a thing?
Mm-hmm.
Once
Sure.
every handful of years,
Yeah.
like I think Kern County gets some snow.
If you want to call it that.
I guess.
Tiny, teeny little flakes that melt upon landing.
If they happen to make it to the ground. So, my point being, I'm not going to give them too much crap about the total abomination that was the landscape
It's really
of
just
every scene.
pushing the viewer to suspend their disbelief, right?
It is, and it sucks because it's so frequent.
And obvious.
Now,
as
was
it
it frequent
continues.
and obvious in 1960? I do not know.
I don't think so.
I don't know that people knew the difference. I'm sure some did. Obviously, some people had traveled and knew the difference, but I feel like most people who were sitting down to watch this week's episode of The Twilight Zone probably didn't know or give two shits
As
that
I'm saying, it
Pennsylvania
probably
shouldn't look like Sacramento in the summer.
it probably landed on more of, oh, this is just a thing and it doesn't really matter because the story is what matters. I don't know.
Whatever the case may be, she got a flat tire and there's a mechanic there to help her.
Yeah, and we get our first little red flag because he alludes to the fact that she should have died when she blew that tire out.
Foreshadowing.
Mm-hmm.
And by that I mean blatantly stating what is fairly obvious within the first 15 minutes of the episode. Given the episode is only like 28 minutes long, so
Yeah.
maybe that's
It's a shorter episode than most.
say maybe the 15 minutes in before we're like, oh yeah, she's super dead, is not so bad on this one.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then 1960, maybe this wasn't a super popular storyline at that point.
He asked her how fast she was going. She's like, oh, I don't know, 60,
60,
65. He goes around a corner with shoulders like pudding. Should have been calling for a hearse, not a mechanic.
Which is not something your roadside service tech should tell you,
Mm-hmm.
sir.
Mm-hmm. Not professional.
Very unprofessional to suggest that she should have died, but you're here to save her tire
In
your Chevy
Hollywood
pickup.
magic fashion, she winds up in a mechanic shop. He says something like, follow me to it. Yeah, he just changed her tire for
Put
her.
the spare on for
presumably.
her.
Mhm. So she winds up there. It's a very long and drawn out process. We see her becoming increasingly paranoid as the episode progresses. But
She-
when she's leaving the mechanic shop, she sees the hitchhiker for the first time.
She does, and his face, y'all. Woof.
Is he wearing a fedora?
I don't remember what hat he's wearing.
Yeah.
He's wearing a ridiculous hat. I can certainly look up what hat he's wearing because
Yeah,
it's
'cause I-
probably a fedora. It's 1960.
I know he's wearing a suit, which there's nothing wrong with that, but I don't know.
Sorry,
It's
this is the point of the episode where Connor Googles.
Yeah. Hold for Googling. While you're looking for his hat, can I continue?
It's a fedora. Moving on.
Hey, all right. So she has a brief pit stop at a diner. She has a discussion with the guy in the diner. And he's like, I'm so sick of driving. I just want to be done being in the car. Gets back in the car. And on the road again, she comes up to a roadwork barricade. And again, sees the hitchhiker. And this time he approaches the window.
And speaks to her.
This is the one-liner that is repeated. Going my way? Pretty sure.
Dun dun dun. Keeping in mind, he is talking to her through her back window on the passenger side of the car. He is literally as far from her as he could be to address somebody in a car. Now, I understand that she's already uncomfortable, but she was made uncomfortable by the very existence of this human being the first time she saw him. And we find out why that is later, but for now, it just seems like she's fairly rude.
Yeah, especially because she overreacts. She freaks out and blows through the barricade.
She yells at him and blows through the barricade, finding herself seemingly moments later, although I think the implication is that she's been driving for some time at this point,
Yeah.
at a railroad crossing.
Yep.
where she once again, while waiting for the train that is taking 9.5 years to even come into view, she is stopped at the what would be a railroad like drop down arm that I
Mhm.
don't think was actually there. It was just the flashing light. When she sees behind her yet again,
In front of her, the hitchhiker.
sorry, she does see in front of her the hitchhiker, and she makes an absolutely wild decision to blow through the train tracks.
Yep.
And somehow manages to stall her car
In the middle
in
of
the
the train
middle of the
tracks.
tracks. Now, I understand Hollywood magic. With that said, no reason that car should have died. It was an automatic. All she did was step on the gas. But it died as soon as she got into the middle of the tracks. Immediately, the brakes seemingly locked up. Maybe she stepped on them. Maybe the car's just a super giant hunk of shit. And then, as Hollywood trauma, That's not the word I'm looking for. Anticipation goes.
Yes. Suspense.
Suspense. Thank you. The car will not start.
Nope.
Ermagerd.
Meanwhile, she's looking between trying to get the engine going and looking through the window or the windshield, and the hitchhiker's just doing the thumb motion.
Just waving that thumb
And
like
smirking.
no big deal. Glance over to see the train, which is coming right for her.
and get that
Wouldn't
nice
you
shot
know
with the light and the horn and the train is approaching, that classic shot.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. But then she lurches forward and doesn't get hit by the train.
Car starts. She gets out of the way. Oh, no. Nobody saw that coming. We thought the episode was over.
And then she runs out of gas. Like, that's literally the next scene. All of this
Next
tragic
scene
stuff
is
is happening, like, from the get-go.
This episode has the strangest pacing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it is like somebody took a movie worth of travel material, cut out every second of unnecessary detail, and then just smashed these things. Like it got really popular on YouTube for a while for people to do like facing the camera videos where they just cut every dead second of sound
Mm-hmm.
out of their own dialogue. So what you're left with is just a nonstop run-on dialogue where they pack as much information as possible into this 3 or 4 minute video.
That sounds like a headache.
Well, it's a great way to like kind of absorb a lot of information
Very quickly.
very quickly. Kind of get a baseline, you get some of the more important things, you pick up some details on where they are enunciating, what they are emphasizing. The problem with this episode is nothing's being emphasized.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing is being accentuated.
Right.
It's just boom, 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 boom.
Yep.
Hitchhiker, problem. And they're all packed into this 28, I think, minutes
Mm-hmm.
where there's really nothing to absorb.
You're just
All we're
kinda
seeing
watching
is
it
the
happen.
progression of Nan
Mm-hmm.
slowly but surely becoming more and more hysterical
Ah.
at the existence of this dude who has not created anything.
Yeah.
Sure, he's being a little weird. He's a hitchhiker. She's uncomfortable. I'm not going to fault that.
Yeah.
But
He hasn't really done anything.
he hasn't
though.
done anything. He's a hitchhiker, and she doesn't like that he keeps picking up or showing up where she's going.
Right. Always a few steps ahead of her.
So I don't know. We're just watching her become more and more like unnerved with the situation.
I think that was actually one of the conversations she had in the pit stop at the diner with the guy, because she was asking him how often hitchhikers are around.
Yeah, and whether or not somebody traveling at 65
Give him a hypothetical.
give him a hypothetical about
Could
whether
they
or not he could
always-
have been hitchhiking to ahead of her
if he got picked up every single time.
by a vehicle that was moving significantly faster than her.
Yeah.
And I didn't do the math on it. The guy at the diner said that it was possible. So hey, maybe it's possible. I don't know.
Yeah.
So she runs out of gas, gets out of her car, leaves the headlights on,
Mhm.
and starts.
It's nighttime now.
Right. It's nighttime now because things, reasons, stuff. Leaves her headlights on, starts walking. We see a marvelous camera must see, so we're going to go ahead and defy the laws of the world moment.
Of gravity and physics and
The sign.
Yep.
The sign bothers me so much, and I get it because they wanted us to see this gas and eats just ahead sign.
Yep. In big bold letters.
In big bold letters. The problem is
there wasn't an arrow though.
There wasn't an arrow. The problem is that we see that sign as she's walking past it from in front of her. So the sign is facing very much the wrong direction. They could have reoriented that sign so it was facing the correct direction. And if they didn't want to reform the shot, they could have just panned
so it just
to follow her as she walked. Like, they could have started with the camera on her. As she walked past the camera, they could have panned to keep her in frame, thus revealing the sign pointing the correct direction.
Right.
But instead, they've got the sign facing the way she is coming from.
Yeah.
As if her car is currently broke down where there is gas and eats.
So she's walking in the wrong direction.
She's walking away from the gas station that she gets to in all of 10 seconds.
Yep. And because it's night and it's late, gas station owner's asleep.
Lives on site, though. Yeah. That's handy.
Yeah, right? So she goes and she bangs on the window, and he, of course, is like super pissed for being disturbed. And he's like, I'm not going to help you. Like,
come back in the morning. Although I was fairly amused by and then thoroughly irritated by the, what was the line? She says, this hitchhiker, I think he's trying to mug me, or something to that effect. And the gas station owner's response is, well, if he does, come back and I'll call the cops.
Right. Like, so if something bad happens, limp your way back to me and we'll take care of it. I'm not going to do nothing for it now. That's cold.
That is cold-hearted. That is some absolute malice. However,
more magic.
I digress. And suddenly, she is not alone in this gas station.
But a clean-looking sailor just randomly appears.
This guy. This fucking guy. I can't handle this sailor.
No.
He's the walking epitome of what's wrong with chivalry.
Yeah. He is my least favorite character.
He is so the manly, burly, I'm a sailor boy. I can't handle his BS.
So he sees this lady in distress. And she explains, that she's out of gas and yada yada. And he's like, well, I won't stand for this. And he goes back and
I'm going to march my way over and wake that gas station owner up.
And he's going to do something about it because I'm a guy.
Because I'm a big boy. I'm a big sailor boy in my big sailor bridges.
And sure enough, the next thing we see is her and the sailor walking back to her car with gas can in tow, and the car has magically not died.
Them headlights is still on, and holy God, the batteries in 1960 were better than the batteries in 1922. Because 1922, 2020,
hey, it's all good.
My brain today.
Point
being, if I go buy a brand new battery right now, install it in my Buick, turn my headlights on, and walk away for half an hour, that sumbitch is going to be dead before I can finish peeing.
Yep.
Just don't make them like they used to.
Well, and there also was this implication that a ton of time had passed.
Yeah, I mean that goes on throughout the entire episode, and I can't tell if it was a intentional, let's make it look like huge amounts of time are passing, or if it was just a complete lack of awareness to the lighting setups they were using between days of shooting.
Yeah,
I don't know what caused it. All I know is it is mind-boggling.
Well, and it's not consistent either, because
at all.
When she was like on the train tracks trying to get the car started, when we first saw her, the sun was lighting up half of her face, and then in the very next shot, there was no sun at all.
Yeah, they make it very clear when the camera was, like, when they cut and when they picked up for a new take, or whatever the case may be, because it's brutal. The inconsistency with the lighting in this episode is absolutely brutal.
Yeah.
The inconsistency with the story is almost as brutal, because she convinces this guy to go with her by essentially begging him not to make her go alone.
Yep. And she's tired of being by herself. So he gets in, and the first thing he does, guys, this made me so angry for her. He gets into her car, right? And is it a bench seat that she had?
It's a bench seat in
that-
the front, and I'm going to preface with, again, we gotta make sacrifices to get the shot. I understand this. Sometimes people are gonna stand a little too close to each other when they're talking in order for us to get them both in the frame the way we want it. With that said,
He's essentially sitting in her lap.
he is damn near in her lap. He is dead center of the bench while she is driving, and he spends the entire time leaning over,
Mm-hmm.
like damn near leaning over her
Mm-hmm.
in her seat.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if this was a character choice. I fucking hope not. I assume this was a production choice to
Yeah.
keep the frame the way they wanted it.
Like, guys, we're not going to move the camera, so just sit real close, like.
Just move in, move in. You're a little too far out of frame.
But
We're
I
chopping
wasn't-
off your hideous ass ear.
I wasn't even so much bothered by the closeness.
I know you weren't, and that's why I was trying to change the subject because I didn't want to talk about this.
So much as the first words out of his mouth
This fucking guy.
is, "Can I take my shoes off?" Okay.
Let's just let this stew for a second, shall we? You've invited a stranger into your car. He's obliged because he's nice sailor
Sitting
boy.
very close to
He
you
has
in the front
decided to
seat.
sit so close to you that you can smell him. And then he asks if he can take off his shoes.
And he has presumably been hitchhiking himself.
Ladies and gentlemen, I would kick my wife out of my car if she took off her shoes. This is not okay.
It's wrong on so many levels. And I mean, she's just like, "Oh, sure." I mean, I guess it was kind of a thing. Well, if I tell him no, he might get out of the car and then I might be alone again. So I'm going to tell him no. Bad. Bad.
Whatever her reason, just don't ask. Don't
No.
put somebody in the position of having to decide whether or not to tell you, no, you can't take off your shoes from your dirty ass feet in my car.
It's bad.
Don't put people in weird positions. Stop. It's 2020. Stop putting people in awkward positions.
Just leave your shoes on.
Just leave your fucking shoes on. You gross and you cabbage.
So
Moving on.
this happens. She's driving again.
And who does she see?
The hitchhiker,
Oh my God, it's like he's a part of the episode.
right?
Because
So
he's
she-
back. Keep in mind, everything we've just told you takes place over the course of like 32 seconds of mind-numbingly, painfully slow dialogue.
So she's driving along. She sees the hitchhiker, and then suddenly she swerves the car to hit the hitchhiker.
Which she readily admits when he asks, "What were you trying to do?" And her response is, "Run him over." Okay, Nan.
But apparently the sailor guy couldn't see the hitchhiker.
He did not see the hitchhiker the first or the second time she tried to run him over.
So this crazy lady is just in the
We
car,
don't use the C word.
swerving, attempting to hit things that this dude can't see.
So, understandably, this nice sailor without his shoes, smelling of hitchhiker gross, decides to take control of the wheel from the passenger seat, pull the car over to the side of the road, inform Nan that he wants to make it back to San Diego in one piece, so he's walking. As far as we know, they're still in fucking Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
Like, we haven't been updated about a location at this point.
Yep. Also, fun fact,
Give it to me.
when she swerves,
Uh-huh.
so when they leave the gas station,
Mm-hmm.
she's driving a light-colored 1959 model car.
Now, do you just know this off the top of your head?
I looked it up.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I wanted some fun
I was just
facts.
curious, yo.
So, because I don't know car things. You know this.
That's why
I don't know
asked.
what years and models, and that's why I said car, because I don't know what it is.
That's fair.
1959 model era car. It's light colored. But then when she swerves, we see a 1957 model black car. Like 2 seconds later.
Yeah, ladies
Super
and gentlemen, when we say inconsistent, boy howdy, do we mean inconsistent.
Yes.
Woof.
Except
Ladies and
I didn't
gentlemen,
actually
woof.
catch that until I found this fact and read it, and then went back and watched it again. I was like, oh yeah.
There's a lot of these inconsistencies that I did not catch until we started doing some research on the episode.
Yeah.
Because while they're inconsistent, the story is just dull enough to keep you in a state of drooling.
It's dull and smooth.
So smooth. Like a soft serve in your lap.
Ugh. Gross. So the sailor, pardon the pun, jumps ship.
I will not pardon the pun, you're fired.
He freaks out. He gets out of the vehicle. And she then decides to find a payphone and call her mother to tell her that she is returning home.
Because this trip has not been what I expected.
This was like not a vacay.
No, if I recall correctly in the opening narration, Rod says that she's traveling for business.
On vacation.
Oh, was it on vacation?
Because she's a buyer in a New York store.
She's a buyer in a New York store and has decided that Los Angeles is a good place to vacation.
I think the trip was the the drive.
Well, if the trip was a vacation, she done fucked up.
Yeah, I think that's why she wants to go home. So then what happens?
So she stops by a payphone at a random place, at a random lot, at a random studio, and makes her way to a payphone. Calls the operator, gives them a number that does not sound like a phone number to me, but fuck it, I wasn't alive in 1960. And somebody other than her mother answers the phone, gives a name, it's unimportant, and informs Nan that her mother is still in the hospital due to the nervous breakdown she had when her daughter died.
Dun dun dun.
Cue piano stabs here.
So Nan's confused. And the
Understandably.
lady goes on to tell her that her daughter died in a car accident
6 days ago.
in Pennsylvania.
When her tire blew.
Hey. So she then drops the phone.
And the mood change is immediate.
I think maybe Enya's a little too far, but that's kind of what I was picturing to put that in a modern
what you
sense.
just said.
Music. Enya, the new agey. She does a lot of instrumentally. People know what Enya is.
Ladies and gentlemen, I don't know what the hell she's talking about.
Anyway, I imagined some sort of ethereal, instrumental music just because of the expression on her face when she is accepting that she's dead.
And the acceptance takes all of 4 seconds
As she's doing this monologue
in her head regarding, she mentions feeling like an empty shell as though somebody has pulled a plug from her.
Yep, and all of the emotion has drained out of her. The fear is gone. She now is just numb.
And now she knows what that hitchhiker wants from her. And we're about to find out, too. Kind of, except we don't, because she gets back in the car.
Oh, I thought you were going to do an ad break.
I mean...
We should do an ad break here.
Should we do an ad break here?
Yeah.
We're 30 minutes in, and this episode's not going to last another...
Keep them in suspense for a little bit.
Can we just finish this and do the ad break before our closing bits?
Yeah, that's fine.
That's fine.
That's fine. I do like this part, though.
See, we'll get through this fairly quickly, because the fact of the matter is she gets in her car, pulls down her visor, rather than looking in the rear view mirror, which is already adjusted for the back seat, she pulls down her visor to reveal in the back seat of her 1957. Maybe we haven't seen the outside of this one. Car. The hitchhiker, who says
his famous line, "Looks like you're going my way."
Oh, and ladies and gentlemen, if I could describe this moment, I would the only thing I could possibly say to put this moment into an appropriate perspective for somebody who hasn't seen the episode is imagine the first time you got a flu shot. It's about as painful. But then we get Rod Serling's ending outro narration, which drags it all back to a Twilight Zone moment. Lay it on me.
I mean, I didn't get it verbatim, but he essentially is Nan Adams, age 27, going on a road trip to California. She didn't make it. She took a detour. Through the Twilight Zone.
Rod, you did it again, didn't you, Rod?
It's so
You
brilliant.
did it again, didn't you? It's my boy Rod. I
Okay. So you enjoyed that.
enjoy everything Rod does. Even the bad stuff is still good.
Yeah.
Random thing, he didn't want to do the narration for this show.
No.
He tried to hire somebody else. I had their name written down, and then I didn't keep it because I didn't think it was important.
I didn't
He
know
wanted
that.
to hire somebody to do all the narration stuff for the Twilight Zone.
Because he didn't like his voice or what?
So the only thing they said is that his quote was, "It's this dude or nobody."
Hmm.
And when the studio or whoever said no, he was like, "I'll just do the damn thing myself then." He probably didn't say damn because I'm sure he was a good God-fearing man. But I don't know. Maybe he was. I don't fucking know, man. Maybe,
Okay.
I don't know.
All right.
Episcopalian, maybe?
Thank you
Is
for
that a thing?
that.
He brought it through. I love Rod. I
Mhm.
love all the things Rod does. Like I said, even the bad stuff Rod does is still pretty damn good.
On that note,
Like sex and pizza and ad breaks. Sorry. We'll be back. I told you we'd be back.
and we're back.
Can't believe you didn't believe me.
So, because you say that you like all of Rod's productions, what'd you think?
I have claimed on occasion and at least twice in this episode that I like everything Rod does, even the bad stuff.
What'd you think of this episode?
This episode is... I mean, it's a good episode as far as things go. It's not like walking distance good
Yeah.
in my book.
It's not
But
as
it's not 16 millimeter shrine bad either.
sure,
So like
sure. It had interesting pacing.
it had bad pacing in my book. I did not like the pacing. I did not like the only thing consistent about this episode is how inconsistent it was.
Yeah.
And I mean, at least that's something.
I didn't find it as visually entertaining.
It was not. Visually it was fairly boring.
Very flat.
Fairly flat, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But again, I mean, it wasn't an episode written to be a visually stunning piece. It was
Sure.
it
Well-
was all about Nan's development through the episode.
I was just
and
thinking
then
of
subsequent acceptance of her
Demise.
ways.
I was thinking in comparison to like earlier episodes where they do a lot more visual things. Like
They certainly seem to put more time
Yeah.
into the visuals in other episodes. Baby girl. No, you can't be under the table. You're a bad co-host. You don't even have thumbs. Get over here. Come here. Over here. Not on me.
she's
There you go,
trying
perfect.
to
Sit.
join the podcast.
There you go. Good girl.
I can tell
Stay
you my
there.
favorite moment because I've seen this now a few times.
Yeah, lay it on me. What's your favorite moment of this episode?
I really like the end.
Are you saying that in like a sarcastic, smart-ass Connor likes the end kind of way, or like the...
No, the last scene where the hitchhiker's face is in the visor mirror. Like I really like that because it's all progression until that. And the fact that his face is in the visor mirror rather than the rear view mirror or a scene from outside. Like he's in the car, so she unwillingly picked him up when she accepted the fact that she was dead. Like
It is
I
the
like
first
that.
moment of resolution
Mhm.
we get in the episode, which is not abnormal for the Twilight Zone. They will
Sure.
usually suspend resolution until the very last moment, at least in season 1. But yeah, it's the first moment of resolution we get, and it's a hard moment of resolution.
Yeah.
So it also, the last scene also lands my favorite
it's like a
moment
full
of
stop.
the episode. Yeah, it's a bit like watching I don't know. Most of the episode is like running alongside a train trying to keep up.
Mm-hmm.
And the last 3 minutes are just that train coming to a stop so you can just step through the doors.
Kind of like an exhale, really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which I would not be doing if I was running trying to keep up with a train.
No.
I also wouldn't keep up with a train.
Sure.
I would be running, staring at a train long off in the distance.
Yeah.
All right. What's your general takeaway? What is the moral? What do we got on this one?
I haven't really, like, nailed down. I couldn't find a moral, per se.
I don't know if I actually got this right based on their idea for it. My takeaway from a moral standpoint was the message was supposed to be something to the effect of accepting your situation, accepting your place, not trying to run from what you can't change.
Yeah. Kind of like a memento mori.
Gesundheit. That sounded fairly painful.
Essentially, remember that we're all going to die. Remember to live while you're... Like, it was a message more to the viewers rather than...
I say it certainly wasn't a message to Nan because she was in fact dead.
Yeah. But something like that, like, just acceptance of where you are and remembering to live in your daily life.
In the words of my absolutely favorite person on this planet, alive or dead, real or fiction, it doesn't do to dwell on dreams and forget to live.
Well said.
Yes, well said, Albus Dumbledore. Rest in
Dumbledore
peace.
forever.
Rest in peace, my giant bearded friend.
Yeah.
Got me through most of my youth, that crinkly old wizard. Love that man.
I was a little late to the game, but I have so much love and appreciation.
He was like a second dad.
Yeah.
Certainly not a better dad. He was absentee at best, Mr. Dumbledore.
Well, sure. It's just kind of there in the pages.
Never came to any of my baseball games.
And Hogwarts will always be there to welcome you home. Ah.
But seriously, he didn't come to any of my baseball games. Fuck that guy.
Anyway, this episode of The Twilight Zone.
3 marbles.
3? Okay, that's fair.
I mean, it's an episode. It's an episode of The Twilight Zone.
Uh,
It's not a bad episode. It's not a good episode. It is a very solid
Middle of the road.
episode of The Twilight Zone.
Okay, that's fair.
So I give it 3 marbles.
I'm going to give it 4.
You can give it 4 marbles.
I'm going to give it 4.
It's a hefty marble.
I mean, it was long, but I love that ending scene.
Fair play, which gives it a total of 7
7.
marbles.
Yeah.
So, if you're keeping track at home, that's a number more or less than the previous one.
What
Where
would
can
you
they
give?
find you?
Oh, me?
Yeah, you.
Well,
The other person in this room
I am.
staring at me across the
It's-
table.
You want me to tell them? Because I'm trying to do that.
I'm listening. I'm not
Oh.
stopping you.
Okay.
I don't like
am-
interrupting people. It makes me feel bad to do that.
You should
I'm
tell them
very
where they
sorry.
can find our podcast.
They have already found our podcast if they're listening to this conversation.
On the social medias to actually talk to us and not just
You
creep.
can find us on the Twitter at WWUcast. We're on Facebook at either the WWUcast or Wander With Us or something to that effect.
It
Just
is
use
Wander
the
With Us.
search bar. It'll
Mhm.
pop up. There's like an icon of a hummingbird on a white background. You can't miss it.
It's great.
It's adorable.
I am at its_Bethany on Twitter.
Is there an apostrophe?
No. No. No.
I am at Konr Dare. That's at KONRDARE. You can tweet at us, tweet at the show. We will tweet back.
We just want to hear that people are listening because we can see some of you. Like, we see that people are
We
listening.
see all of you.
But
I see
But-
what you're wearing.
but
You
I
in the
wanna
striped
have-
shirt that just listened to episode 14. Good on you. Thanks for coming.
I just want to have conversations with you guys. That's all.
I do not, but I will if you tweet at us. More
Rude.
importantly, We could I know we harp on about this at least twice an episode, and I promise here shortly we will stop because it won't matter anymore. But for now, we could really use rating reviews on iTunes specifically.
Mhm.
It will help us move a little further in the ratings, get us in front of some new listeners. And the more listeners we get, the more likely it is that we can do this more frequently and keep it going.
And maybe even bust out some merch at some point in the future.
I'm not agreeing to anything.
That's fine.
Who are you?
Who am I?
Are you Negan?
Well, I'm Bethany.
I am still Negan.
Try that again.
Sorry?
Try it again.
All right. Start from the top. Let's get this sign off right. I'm ready. Go for it.
Well, I've been Bethany.
I've been Negan. This is where you say thanks for listening.
Yeah, but you didn't say it right.
We'll see you next time.